The migraine hits like a freight train just as Dr. Harrison begins his keynote speech. Perfect timing, really. I grip the edge of the cocktail table, willing the throbbing pain to subside, but the crystal chandeliers above multiply into kaleidoscopic daggers of light. "You look like you're about to pass out," Megan whispers, sliding closer. "And you can't pass out, not when your presentation is tomorrow morning." I force a smile. "Thanks for the reminder." The corporate gala swirls around us in a nauseating blend of perfume, champagne, and networking desperation. I'm Brianna, and until 10 minutes ago, I was rehearsing tomorrow's chemical engineering presentation in my head while pretending to care about pharmaceutical industry small talk. Maybe if you hadn't spent the last 3 weeks living off coffee and spreadsheets, your body wouldn't be revolting, Megan adds, fishing an ibuprofen from her clutch. The Maxwell project is worth it. I down the pill with warm champagne. Besides, you're the one who dragged me here. Because you need a life outside that lab. When was your last date? Before I can deflect, a man in a perfectly tailored suit approaches our table. His presence commands attention without trying, and despite my splitting headache, I notice how his eyes crinkle slightly at the corners when he smiles. I couldn't help overhearing. "You're working on the Maxwell project?" he asks, directing the question at me. "She's leading it," Megan jumps in before I can respond. "Brianna's the chemical engineer who developed the new polymer coating." The man's eyebrows raise slightly. "I'm Ryan. My company's actually considering investing in Maxwell's expansion." He extends his hand and I shake it, noting his firm but not overwhelming grip. "Would you mind sharing some insights?" The migraine pulses harder. "I'd love to, but I'm actually not feeling well." "She has a massive presentation tomorrow," Megan interrupts again, "but she's free this weekend." Ryan's smile widens. "Perfect. I'd love to hear about the project over dinner. Saturday?" The room spins slightly. Between the pain and the unexpected attention, I feel off balance. "I usually work weekends." "She'd love to," Megan cuts in for the third time. I shoot her a glare, but she's already pulling out her phone. "Here's her number." After Ryan walks away with my contact information, Megan grins triumphantly. "You can thank me later. He's gorgeous, successful, and actually interested in your work. When's the last time that happened?" "I can't believe you just—" The sentence dies as another wave of pain hits. The lights seem brighter, the voices louder. Something feels wrong, beyond just a normal headache. "Brianna?" Megan's voice sounds distant. "You really don't look good." I need to go home. I grab my clutch, nearly knocking over a champagne glass. "The presentation? I'll call you a car." Megan's already on her phone. "But promise me you'll text Ryan back when he reaches out." I barely hear her. The pain is different now, almost artificial, like something foreign is causing it. As I stumble toward the exit, I catch a glimpse of a woman watching me intently from across the room. Something about her gaze sends a chill down my spine, but before I can process it, another wave of pain forces my eyes shut. The last thing I remember is Megan's voice calling my name as my knees buckle beneath me. As consciousness fades, one thought cuts through the fog. This isn't just a migraine. Something else is very, very wrong. I wake up 12 hours later in the hospital, missing the most important presentation of my career, with no idea that this mysterious collapse would be the first domino in a chain of events that would destroy everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and revenge. 3 months after the gala incident, I find myself standing in front of Ryan's family home, gripping a bottle of wine so tightly my knuckles turn white. The house looms before me, a sprawling Victorian with perfectly manicured gardens that somehow makes my designer dress feel inadequate. "They're going to love you," Ryan whispers, his hand warm against my lower back. "Mom's been asking about you nonstop since I mentioned the dinner." I force a smile, remembering the hospital tests that found nothing wrong after my collapse. The migraine remains unexplained, like so many things lately. "And your sister?" "Vanessa's protective, but she'll come around." The door opens before we reach it. Margaret stands there, radiant in a silk blouse, her silver hair elegantly styled. "You must be Brianna." She pulls me into an unexpected hug that smells of jasmine and home-cooked meals. "Ryan's told us so much about you." "All lies, I'm sure," comes a sharp voice from behind her. Vanessa appears, wineglass in hand, wearing a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Something about her seems familiar, but I can't place it. Inside, the house is warm and inviting, filled with family photos and antique furniture. Margaret leads us to the dining room, chattering about Ryan's childhood adventures. I notice Vanessa watching my reactions, calculating something behind her pleasant expression. "So, Brianna," Vanessa says as we settle around the table, "Ryan mentions you're quite career-focused. Must be difficult maintaining relationships when work comes first." "Vanessa," Margaret warns, but I catch the slight tremor in her hand as she serves the pasta. "It's fine," I say, meeting Vanessa's gaze. "I believe in balancing priorities. Ryan understands that." "Of course he does. Ryan's always been accommodating." Vanessa twirls her wineglass. "Remember Caroline, Ryan? She was so dedicated to her career, too." Ryan stiffens beside me. "That's ancient history." 3 years isn't ancient," Vanessa continues. "Especially when—" "Brianna," Margaret interrupts, her voice slightly strained. "Ryan mentioned you developed some revolutionary polymer coating. That must be fascinating work." As I explain my research, I notice Margaret's hand shaking more pronouncedly. She drops her fork, and when she reaches for it, I see something else. A slight yellowing around her eyes that makeup barely conceals. "Mother, are you feeling all right?" Vanessa's tone shifts instantly to concern. "Perhaps you should take your medicine." "I'm fine, dear, just tired." "I'll get your pills." Vanessa rises smoothly, but not before I catch a flash of something in her expression. Satisfaction? While she's gone, Margaret leans forward. "Don't mind Vanessa. She's been through some difficult times, and change is hard for her." "What kind of difficult times?" I ask, but Vanessa returns before Margaret can answer. "Here, Mother." She hands Margaret 2 pills. "The doctor adjusted your dosage, remember?" Margaret frowns. "Did he? I thought—" "You're getting confused again," Vanessa says firmly. "Remember what happened last time you skipped doses?" I watch Margaret take the pills, noting how Vanessa's attention never wavers from her mother's face. Something feels off, but I can't put my finger on what. The evening continues with forced pleasantries and undercurrents I can't quite grasp. As we're leaving, Vanessa pulls me aside. "A word of advice?" Her voice is honey-sweet poison. "Don't get too comfortable. Ryan has a pattern of attracting women who think they can change him. It never ends well." Before I can respond, she adds, "Oh, and I hope you're feeling better after that unfortunate episode at the gala. Migraines can be so unpredictable." I freeze. I never mentioned the migraine, and Ryan hadn't told his family about my collapse. As I turn to question her, she's already walking away, leaving me with a chilling realization. I had seen her before. She was the woman watching me at the gala just before everything went dark. In the car ride home, Ryan squeezes my hand. "That went well, don't you think?" I stare out the window, my mind racing. Something is very wrong in that house, and Margaret's trembling hands and Vanessa's calculated moves are just the beginning. The question is, do I pull at this thread, knowing it might unravel everything? The answer comes as I remember Vanessa's knowing smile when discussing my migraine. Yes, I decide. Some threads need to be pulled, no matter the cost. The first sign something's wrong is Margaret's empty bedroom. I find her in the bathroom instead, gripping the sink, her face ashen in the mirror's reflection. 6 months into my engagement to Ryan, and I've learned to read the subtle signs of decline in his mother's health. "I'm fine," Margaret says before I can speak. "Just dizzy. The new medication." "What new medication?" She waves vaguely at an orange prescription bottle on the counter. I pick it up, my chemical engineering background kicking in as I read the label. The dosage seems unusually high for someone of Margaret's size. "Vanessa brought it yesterday. Said Dr. Chen changed the prescription." My fingers tighten around the bottle. "Did you speak with Dr. Chen yourself?" "Vanessa handles all that now." Margaret's voice wavers. She's always been so good with medical things. Ever since. She stops abruptly, swaying slightly. I grab her arm, steadying her. Since what? The bathroom door creaks open. Vanessa stands there, perfectly composed in her designer suit. Mother, you're going to be late for your appointment. Her eyes narrow at the prescription bottle in my hand. Why are you going through Mother's medications? She's having side effects, I say, matching her tone. The dosage seems... Are you a doctor now? Vanessa steps between us, taking the bottle. First engineering, now medicine. Is there anything you don't consider yourself an expert in? Margaret's hand trembles against my arm. Girls, please. I'm taking Mother to her appointment, Vanessa announces. Ryan mentioned you have a big presentation today anyway, Brianna. Wouldn't want work to suffer because of... distractions. I watch them leave, noting how Vanessa's grip on Margaret's arm is just slightly too tight. Later that evening, I access Margaret's patient portal. Ryan had given me the login months ago when I started helping with her care. What I find makes my blood run cold. There is no record of a prescription change. In fact, Dr. Chen hasn't seen Margaret in 3 weeks. I'm still staring at the screen when my phone buzzes. A text from Megan. 911. Need to talk. Coffee shop on 5th. Now. 20 minutes later, Megan slides into the booth across from me, her usual smile absent. Remember when you asked me to keep an eye on Vanessa's social media? Well, I found something. She pushes her phone across the table. Look at the date. It's a photo from 3 years ago. Vanessa at some charity gala, standing next to a familiar face. Dr. Chen. They knew each other, I whisper. There's more. Megan swipes to another photo. This one shows Vanessa with an elderly man I don't recognize. The caption reads, Missing Uncle James, gone too soon. Their father's brother, Megan explains, died suddenly 3 years ago. Guess who had power of attorney over his medical care? My stomach lurches. Vanessa. And guess who inherited most of his estate? The pieces click together with horrifying clarity. The mysterious migraines at the gala, Margaret's declining health. The unauthorized medication changes. I need proof, I say, more to myself than Megan. Hard evidence. Be careful, Megan warns. People who are capable of... She stops as my phone rings. It's Ryan. You need to come to the hospital, he says, his voice tight with worry. Mom collapsed. They're saying it might be liver failure. I'm already grabbing my coat when he adds, Vanessa says you were questioning Mom's medications earlier. What exactly were you doing there? The accusation in his tone is subtle but clear. As I race to my car, I catch a glimpse of my reflection in the window. The woman staring back looks different. Harder, more determined. I think about the prescription bottle, Dr. Chen's records, Uncle James's convenient death. Some threads, when pulled, reveal patterns too dark to ignore. And sometimes I realize as I drive toward the hospital, the real question isn't whether to expose the truth, but how many lives will be destroyed in the process, including, possibly, my own. Because in the brief moment before I hung up with Ryan, I heard Vanessa's voice in the background. I told you she couldn't be trusted, just like Caroline. The game is changing, and now I know. It's not just Margaret's life at stake anymore. It's a war for survival, and Vanessa has been playing it much longer than I realized. The hospital's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Ryan's face as he paces the waiting room. The doctors say it's acute liver toxicity. They're running more tests, but... He stops, running a hand through his disheveled hair. How did we miss this? I clutch the folder containing Margaret's medication records, my throat tight. Ryan, we need to talk about Vanessa. Not this again. His voice hardens. My sister has been managing Mom's care for years. That's exactly the problem. I pull out the prescription records. Look at these dates, the medication changes, Dr. Chen's appointments. What are you doing with Mom's private records? Vanessa's voice cuts through the conversation like ice. She stands in the doorway, perfectly composed despite the late hour. Ryan, she's accessing confidential medical information without authorization. You mean like you did with Uncle James? The words escape before I can stop them. Vanessa's face doesn't change, but her fingers twitch slightly against her designer handbag. I don't know what you're talking about. 3 years ago, I press on, watching Ryan's confused expression. The charity gala photos with Dr. Chen, the changed prescriptions, the inheritance. You've been investigating me? Vanessa's laugh is brittle. Ryan, your fiancé is becoming obsessed, just like Caroline was with her conspiracy theories. Caroline? The name hits like a physical blow. What happened to her, Vanessa? Really? Ryan steps between us. That's enough. Caroline left the country. She chose to leave. Did she? I turn to Vanessa. Or did you make that choice for her? Ryan, Vanessa's voice trembles perfectly. She's trying to turn you against me, just like Caroline did. Remember how that almost destroyed our family? I watch Ryan's face, see the doubt creeping in. Show him the records, Vanessa. Prove me wrong. I don't have to prove anything. She moves closer to Ryan. Brother, remember what Dr. Morris said about stress triggering Mom's episodes? This constant suspicion, these accusations. A nurse appears in the doorway. Ms. Andrews, your mother's asking for you. Vanessa straightens. We'll continue this discussion later. Ryan, maybe you should take Brianna home. She seems unstable. After she leaves, Ryan won't meet my eyes. You need to stop this. She's manipulating Margaret's medication. I can prove it if... Enough! His outburst echoes through the waiting room. Caroline said the same things. She nearly tore our family apart with her paranoid theories. I won't let that happen again. What if Caroline was right? The silence stretches between us like a chasm. Finally, Ryan speaks, his voice low. I think you should go home. Get some rest. We'll talk tomorrow. But his eyes say something different. They say he's already chosen sides. In the parking lot, my phone buzzes, an unknown number. The voice on the other end is unfamiliar, female, cautious. Is this Brianna? My name is Evelyn. I'm a private investigator, and I have information about Caroline Martinez. My hand tightens on the phone. How did you... I've been following Vanessa Andrews for 2 years. Caroline hired me before she... disappeared. There's something you need to see. We arranged to meet at a 24-hour diner across town. As I drive, my mind races. Caroline didn't leave voluntarily. She was investigating Vanessa. She disappeared. My phone buzzes again. A text from Megan. Emergency, someone broke into your lab. All your research files are gone. Then another message, this time from Vanessa. You should have stayed focused on your career instead of playing detective. Some mysteries are better left unsolved. I pull into the diner's parking lot, my decision made. Playing by the rules hasn't worked. Following proper channels has failed. If I'm going to protect Margaret and uncover the truth about Caroline, I need to fight fire with fire. Evelyn sits in a corner booth, a thick manila envelope in front of her. Her eyes are sharp, assessing. Before we start, she says, you should know, getting involved in this could cost you everything. I think of Ryan's doubt, Margaret's declining health, Caroline's disappearance, and my destroyed research. I've already lost everything, I reply. Now I want justice. She slides the envelope across the table. Then let's talk about what really happened to Caroline Martinez. Caroline's diary lies open on my kitchen table, its pages filled with familiar accusations. 3 years ago, she'd documented the same pattern. Margaret's mysterious symptoms, Vanessa's controlling behavior, the manipulated prescriptions. Evelyn watches me from across the table, her expression unreadable. She tried to warn them, I say, my voice hollow, just like I'm doing now. And like you, she had proof. Evelyn slides another document across the table, a toxicology report. This was never filed with the police. Caroline obtained it the day before she disappeared. My phone buzzes. A text from Ryan. We need to talk. Mom's condition is getting worse. Go, Evelyn says. But remember, Vanessa knows you're investigating. Be careful what you drink. The hospital corridor feels longer than usual. I find Ryan outside Margaret's room, his face drawn. Before he can speak, Dr. Chen emerges, looking troubled. The latest tests show significant deterioration, he says. We're considering a liver transplant. That won't be necessary. Vanessa appears, clipboard in hand. I've arranged for Mother's transfer to a private facility. Without consulting me? Ryan frowns. You've been distracted lately. Vanessa's eyes flick to me. Besides, I have Mother's power of attorney. Since when? The words escape before I can stop them. Since last week. She produces a document with Margaret's shaky signature. Mother agreed it was best given her condition. I study Dr. Chen's face as he reviews the transfer papers. Something's off about his reaction. Too rehearsed, too careful. Dr. Chen, I say quietly, do you remember the charity gala 3 years ago? The one where you met Vanessa? His pen stills. Vanessa's smile freezes. I don't recall, he begins. The photos are quite clear, I interrupt. Just like the prescription records showing medication changes you never authorized. That's enough. Ryan grabs my arm. This has to stop. Show him the toxicology report, Vanessa. The one that disappeared the day Caroline vanished. The corridor goes silent. Dr. Chen's face pales slightly. Security, Vanessa calls out, her voice steady. My future sister-in-law is having another episode. She needs to be escorted out. As security approaches, I lock eyes with Ryan. Ask her about Uncle James's inheritance. Ask her why Caroline really disappeared. Ask her, get her out of here, Vanessa commands. Outside the hospital, my phone lights up with a message from an unknown number, a video file. My hands shake as I press play. It's security footage from 3 years ago. Caroline entering Vanessa's office late at night. The timestamp shows she left 2 hours later. It was the last time anyone saw her. Another message follows, back off, or history repeats itself. I call Evelyn immediately. I need everything you have on Uncle James's death, and I mean everything. Already ahead of you. Her voice is grim. But there's something else. The private facility where Vanessa's transferring Margaret, it's the same one where Uncle James died. And guess who's on their board of directors? Dr. Chen, I whisper. Brianna? Margaret's weak voice startles me. She's wheeling herself slowly down the hospital ramp, looking frailer than ever. I need to tell you something about Caroline. Before she can continue, Vanessa appears behind her. Mother, you shouldn't be out here. Your transfer is scheduled for tomorrow. Margaret grabs my hand, pressing something into it. Her grip is surprisingly strong. Sometimes, she whispers, the truth hides in plain sight. Later, alone in my car, I open my palm to find a small key. The tag reads, Safety Deposit Box 247, First National Bank. My phone buzzes one last time. Ryan, I found Caroline's original toxicology report. We need to meet, alone. I start the car, my decision made. Vanessa wants to play games? Fine. But she's about to learn that chemical engineers understand toxicology better than most. And some poisons leave traces that never fade, just like the truth. The safety deposit box key burns in my pocket as I walk into First National Bank. Behind me, Evelyn keeps watch, her presence both reassuring and unsettling. We've traced the account to Caroline's name, opened 3 days before she vanished. The box contains a single USB drive. Back at my apartment, the files load slowly. Financial records, medical reports, and then, my breath catches, a video file dated the night Caroline disappeared. Play it, Evelyn urges. Caroline's face fills the screen, her expression tense. If you're watching this, I'm probably dead. Vanessa. Static interrupts. When the video resumes, Caroline is speaking urgently. Uncle James wasn't the first. There were others. The private facility, it's all connected. Dr. Chen's signature on... The screen goes black. My phone rings. Ryan. The transfer's happening tomorrow morning. Brianna, I found something in Mom's old records. We need to... A crash in the background. Ryan's sharp intake of breath. Sorry to interrupt this touching moment. Vanessa's voice, cold and clear. Ryan can't talk right now. If you hurt him, come to the house. Alone. 1 hour. Or Ryan learns exactly what happened to Caroline. The line goes dead. It's a trap, Evelyn warns. I know. I grab my keys, but I have no choice. The house looms dark except for one lit window, Margaret's study. Inside, Vanessa sits at the antique desk, Ryan's phone in her hand. No sign of Ryan. Where is he? Safe, for now. Vanessa's smile doesn't reach her eyes. You've been quite thorough with your investigation. Caroline would be proud. Where's Ryan? You know what's interesting about chemical engineering? She ignores my question. How easily certain compounds can be manipulated, modified, like that migraine you had at the gala. My head spins with the revelation. You drugged me. A warning you chose to ignore. She opens a drawer, just like Caroline ignored hers. The video is worthless without context, just like the evidence you've gathered. She produces a manila envelope. Your research files, the ones from your lab? Amazing how quickly a reputation can be destroyed with a few altered results. My career, my credibility, everything I've worked for. What do you want? Leave, tonight. No goodbyes, no explanations. Disappear like Caroline did. Or Ryan gets proof that his fiancé falsified research data. Margaret's new doctors receive anonymous tips about your obsessive behavior. And maybe, her voice softens dangerously, something happens to Megan. Accidents are so unpredictable. The front door creaks. Heavy footsteps approach. Right on time, Vanessa smiles. Ryan appears in the doorway, his face bruised. Brianna, what are you doing here? She's having another episode, Vanessa says smoothly. I caught her going through Mother's private papers. That's not, I start. I found these in her car. Vanessa holds up a stack of papers, medical records, Margaret's private documents, all planted, all damning. Ryan's expression hardens. So it's true, you've been stealing information, manipulating evidence. Ryan, listen. No, you listen. His voice breaks. I just got off the phone with your laboratory director. The falsified data? They're launching an investigation. Vanessa's masterpiece falls into place. My career destroyed. My credibility shattered. Ryan's trust broken. And somewhere in a safety deposit box, Caroline's unfinished warning sits useless, its truth buried under carefully crafted lies. I'll give you an hour to pack, Ryan says quietly. Then I want you gone. As I drive away, my phone buzzes one last time, a text from an unknown number. Caroline tried to be a hero too. Some stories don't have happy endings. In my rearview mirror, Vanessa stands at the window, victorious. She doesn't realize I've learned from Caroline's mistakes. Sometimes, to defeat a monster, you have to become one. I pull over and call Evelyn. Remember that contingency plan we discussed? It's time. Because Vanessa forgot one crucial detail. In chemical engineering, every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction, and I'm done playing defense. The game changes tonight. Margaret's private room at St. Michael's Hospital smells of antiseptic and secrets. I find her alone, reading a leather-bound journal, one I've never seen before. I wondered when you'd come, she says without looking up. Vanessa always underestimated your persistence, just like she did with Caroline. My hands tighten on the USB drive. You knew. About Caroline? About James? She closes the journal. I knew everything. I wrote everything down. The monitor beeps steadily as Margaret hands me the journal. Page 47, the day Vanessa discovered her father's will. Before I can open it, the door clicks shut behind me. Vanessa stands there, her expression unreadable. Mother, she says softly, you shouldn't be sharing family secrets with outsiders. She's not an outsider anymore. Margaret's voice strengthens. She figured out what Caroline couldn't. Caroline was weak. Vanessa moves closer. Just like father was weak, just like James became weak. And me? Margaret asks. Was I weak when I started documenting everything? Vanessa freezes. What did you do? The same thing I did when your father died. I watched, I wrote, I waited. I flip to page 47. The entry details how James discovered Vanessa's manipulation of their father's medication, how he threatened to expose her, how he died 3 days later from unexpected complications. It was all for the family, Vanessa whispers. Everything I did was for yourself. Margaret's monitor spikes. And now it ends. Vanessa lunges for the journal, but I'm faster. It's too late, I tell her. Copies of everything. The journal, Caroline's video, the financial records. They're already with the police. They'll never believe you. Ryan will never. Hello, sister. Ryan steps out from the bathroom, his phone recording. I believe I just heard a confession. The color drains from Vanessa's face. You don't understand. I protected us. Protected our legacy. By killing our father? Ryan's voice breaks. By driving Caroline away? By poisoning our mother? I made us stronger. Vanessa grabs a syringe from her pocket. And I won't let you destroy everything I've built. She moves toward Margaret's IV line, but I knock her hand away. The syringe clatters to the floor. We grapple, falling against medical equipment. Alarms blare. Security is coming, Margaret announces calmly. Along with Detective Morris. He's been waiting for my signal. Vanessa goes still. You planned this. No, dear. Margaret picks up her journal. I just finished what Caroline started. What your father couldn't. Sometimes the greatest revenge is simply telling the truth. The door bursts open. Security officers flood in, followed by Detective Morris. As they handcuff Vanessa, she locks eyes with me. You think this is justice? She spits. You're just like me now, manipulating, plotting, destroying families. No, I say quietly. I'm what you created. The difference is I chose to stop. As they lead her away, Ryan touches my arm. I'm sorry I didn't believe you sooner. You believed what she wanted you to believe. We all did. Margaret beckons me closer. The journal is yours now. My testimony to everything, including what really happened to Caroline. She's alive? In Vancouver, protected, waiting. Margaret smiles weakly. Some stories deserve second chances. Later, as Ryan makes arrangements to transfer Margaret to a secure facility, I read through the journal's final entry. Vengeance consumes both the guilty and the innocent. The true victory isn't in destroying your enemy, but in choosing when to stop. Brianna understood this. That's why she'll survive what comes next. That's why she'll heal. Sometimes the greatest revenge is simply walking away. I close the journal, watching the sunset paint shadows across the hospital room. Tomorrow, there will be investigations, explanations, reconciliations. But tonight, in this moment of quiet aftermath, I understand what Margaret meant. The real poison wasn't in Vanessa's syringes or manipulated medications. It was in the desire for revenge itself. And sometimes the only antidote is forgiveness, not of others, but of yourself. I leave the journal on Margaret's nightstand and walk away, carrying only Caroline's USB drive. Some stories need to be remembered, but not relived. Some battles are won simply by laying down your weapons and walking away. The courthouse steps feel colder than they should in spring. Vanessa stands at the top, handcuffed but somehow still regal, as reporters shout questions about the verdict. 25 years for multiple counts of attempted murder, fraud, and conspiracy. Justice served, they say, but justice feels different than I imagined. Ready? Ryan appears beside me, his tie loosened, eyes tired. We haven't spoken much since the trial began. I need a minute. He nods, understanding what I can't say. We're both different people now, shaped by different truths. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. Inside my car, I open Margaret's journal one last time. Her latest entry, written from her new care facility, holds one final revelation. Vanessa wasn't born cruel. She was made, slowly, by fear and pride and misplaced love, just as Brianna was remade by revenge. The question isn't who won, it's who chooses to stop the cycle. My phone buzzes. An email from Vancouver. Caroline. Thank you for finishing what I couldn't. But remember, surviving isn't the same as living. Don't let the victory hollow you out like it did me. A tap on my window startles me. It's Evelyn, looking unusually hesitant. There's something you should know about Dr. Chen's testimony. I don't want to know. You need to, because Vanessa wasn't working alone. There were others at the hospital, at the care facility. This goes deeper than one family's tragedy. Of course it does. Evil rarely exists in isolation. But as I watch Vanessa being led to the prison transport, I realize something Margaret tried to tell me. Pursuing every thread of corruption would become another form of poison, another way to lose myself. Whatever you found, I tell Evelyn, give it to Detective Morris. I'm done. Just like that? Just like that. I drive to the care facility where Margaret now lives, safely away from manipulated medications and family politics. She's in the garden, looking stronger than she has in months. I saw the verdict on TV, she says, patting the bench beside her. How do you feel? Hollow, empty, like I won something I never wanted. Good, she smiles at my surprise. That means you're still human, still yourself. Am I? Sometimes I look in the mirror and see Vanessa looking back. The difference is choice, dear. You chose to stop, to walk away. That's harder than any revenge. A nurse brings Margaret her evening medication. I automatically check the pills, the dosage, before catching myself. Some habits die harder than others. Ryan's moving to London, I tell her. The family company's European office needs him. And you? My lab cleared my name, offered my job back. But I don't want it. Any of it. I pause, realizing the truth as I speak it. I want to build something new, something that helps people instead of hurting them. Margaret hands me an envelope. Inside is a letter of recommendation addressed to a pharmaceutical safety oversight committee. Sometimes, she says, the best revenge is living well and preventing others from suffering the same fate. As the sun sets, casting long shadows across the garden, I think about cycles, about how revenge can consume you, transform you, hollow you out, unless you choose to break the pattern. I leave Margaret's journal on her nightstand. She'll need it for the investigation's follow-up questions. But I keep Caroline's USB drive, not as evidence anymore, but as a reminder of choices made and unmade. Walking to my car, I delete Evelyn's number from my phone. Some mysteries should remain unsolved. Some battles should remain unfought. Sometimes victory lies not in winning, but in choosing to step away from the game entirely. The evening traffic flows around me as I drive home, each car carrying its own stories of revenge, justice, and choices. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new temptations to fall back into old patterns. But tonight, I choose to let go. Because sometimes the hardest battle isn't fighting for justice. It's knowing when to lay down your weapons and walk away, even when there are still battles left to fight.